Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dive into a really profound idea called bodhicitta, and we're looking at it through this amazing dialogue between a master and his student. And really, it all boils down to one simple question. What if you had this incredible, priceless treasure, but you didn't even realize you had it?
So let's just kick things off with a huge question. Forget about money or cars or status for a second. What if the ultimate treasure isn't something you have to go out and find, but it's already like a fundamental part of who you are?
But here's the kicker. What if you've got this priceless thing inside you, but, your day-to-day habits are just completely ignoring it? Or even worse, what if you're actively burying it under a pile of garbage? That's the core paradox we're really going to dig into. So, okay, what is this inner treasure? Well, instead of just giving us some dry academic definition, the source text for this comes at it with this really powerful metaphor, something that just clicks right away. All right, so the concept is called bodhicitta, which basically means the awakened mind. And it's described as being like a flawless, priceless diamond. We're talking about the ultimate inner treasure here. And, just like any real diamond, it doesn't just come from anywhere. It has to be mined from a very, very specific place. Yeah, this diamond isn't something you just stumble upon. Nope, it can only be pulled from two very specific, very precious sources. So, where are these mines? Well, the first is what's called great compassion. We're talking a really deep, genuine desire to help all other beings, not just your friends, everyone. And the second one is supreme wisdom, which is, the insight you need to actually help them effectively. And the thing is, you absolutely need both. One without the other, it's just incomplete. And this is where things get really interesting, because a huge distinction is made here. On one hand, you've got the bodhicitta path. Its whole focus is on all beings, using that compassion and wisdom we just talked about. But then there's this other path, a more self-focused one, where the goal is really just your own personal achievement. And according to the master in this text, only that first path, the big, compassionate one, has the right ingredients to produce this diamond. Okay, so the source of this diamond is obviously super profound. And to explain it, the text uses another metaphor. And this one, honestly, seems to completely defy logic when you first hear it. So we get hit with this paradox, right? Imagine this absolutely massive, magnificent tree. It's thriving. It's so big, it's shading the entire world. But it has no roots. How in the world is that even possible? Well, the answer is pretty mind-bending. The tree of bodhicitta isn't rooted in, dirt or physical ground. Its roots are in no-rootness, in something that's totally beyond form and concepts. It's rooted in your inherent true nature, that fundamental awareness that's actually the source of, everything. Okay, so let's say you have this priceless diamond, right? Mined from compassion and wisdom. Where do you put it? This is where the whole thing pivots and points the finger directly at us.
And the master makes a really simple, common sense point. You would never put a priceless diamond in some cheap, cracked, broken container, right? Of course not. Well, these negative qualities we see here, stinginess, jealousy, delusion, they basically turn our own mind into that broken vessel. It becomes totally unable to hold something so precious.
So, if our everyday, habitual mind is this broken vessel, then what is the right container? Where do we find the perfect treasure chest for this diamond? And this is the absolute core insight of the whole thing. You don't have to go out and build it. You don't have to search for it. Your fundamental true nature, that same no-rootness where that giant tree grows, is already the perfect, indestructible treasure chest. The only job is to realize it's there.
And this idea builds to one of the most powerful lines in the entire dialogue. You are an unrealized Buddha. Think about that. Your fundamental nature is already perfect. It's already complete. The only difference between you and a Buddha is that you haven't woken up to that fact yet. Okay, but this brings up a pretty tough but totally essential question. If we're all walking around with this perfect treasure chest inside of us, what on earth have we been putting inside it all this time? So here's the problem in a nutshell. We've got this perfect treasure chest, right? But what do? We habitually, day in and day out, fill it with our garbage, our fleeting negative thoughts. We actually mistake the garbage for the treasure. And just to drive the point home, the master uses this shockingly strong term for all this mental junk. He literally calls it mental feces. And believe it or not, the analogy gets even more graphic from there. The master says we're like someone who owns this priceless, beautiful vessel, but we choose to fill it with feces. And it gets worse. We don't just stop with our own, we actively go out and collect more by obsessing over the faults and negativity of everyone else around us. So this choice we have to either keep collecting garbage or to finally recognize the treasure, it brings us to a really powerful conclusion about what our fundamental purpose really is. Okay, so a really stark distinction is made here between just consuming and actually creating. Think about it. An animal, for the most part, just consumes resources and then produces waste. But a human has this unique, incredible ability to create, to invent tools, to make art, to build technology. And this leads to a pretty challenging idea about our value. The text basically argues that if we spend our entire lives just consuming and producing mental waste, anger, jealousy, resentment, then we're really living more like animals. We're not stepping into our true human potential to actually create something beautiful. But here's the good news, the really hopeful part. Our true nature, that very same treasure chest we've been talking about, is the ultimate source of all creation. It's described as being able to give birth to 10,000 things, which is just a classic way of saying it has infinite potential. We all have this innate, built-in capacity to create. So we're going to leave you with this final thought. Realizing that you are the treasure chest, that's not the end of the journey. Not at all. It's the beginning. It's that moment you decide to stop collecting garbage and finally start your real work as a creator. And so the only question left to ask yourself is, what will you create?